Hello, hello. I'm running late. It looks like I'm here. Oh, maybe I'm not. Oh, come on. Where am I? Well, it might help if I got in the right place, wouldn't it? Hey, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know who's here. Maybe nobody's here. That'd be good because I was a lot. I didn't even get time to change my shirt. Let me turn off that echo, echo, echo. Okay, good morning, Carol. How are you? Maybe my wife will be here in a minute. She's supposed to be. I hope I don't look too nasty on this shirt. I know has got something on it. I meant to change, and then I realized, hey, it's already after 10. Hey, Ian, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. Carol just woke up. That's not a bad thing. I'll tell you what I did. My alarm went off this morning, and I laid there for a minute and I looked at it. This was at 6. And I thought, why is this going off? This is Sunday. I don't have to get up early on Sunday. And I turned it off. Fortunately, I didn't fall right back to sleep. And I realized, no, it's not. This is Saturday. Or I wouldn't have been made it here at all, probably. Oh. So, Ian, how are things in Colorado? You ready for hockey tonight? No. No, you guys aren't in the hockey game. Are you? No, you're not. You're not. Vegas is. But you're in basketball. That's what I was. For some reason, I keep thinking it's the Avalanche that's in the Stanley Cup, but it's Vegas. I don't know why I keep getting that mixed up. Oh, there's a lot going on today if you're a sports person. College World Series regionals, I think, in baseball, and the College World Series in softball. The women play again today. They played. See, somebody played the loser bracket played yesterday. When the first bracket was Thursday. Okay, Carol, we're not going anywhere. Just pulled into your usual spot and a deer grazing right next to it. What do you guys have whitetail down where you're at, or is it a muley? Ian? Yeah, that's right. Basketball game two's tomorrow. Game one, hockey's today. I don't know what time, probably tonight. Anyway, as I was saying, the winners bracket plays again today in the softball. So Tennessee's playing probably Oklahoma, who's undefeated in like 46 or 7 straight games. So I think they're going to be a tough ask, but maybe they will. Well, if it ran off and boing, boing, boing at the mule deer, maybe if it had great big ears and what is a black tail? I guess black tail. That's usually how I tell. They're usually running away from me. Oh. Well, the Nuggets I don't know if you're a basketball fan, but the Nuggets whooped them pretty big the other day, didn't they? Didn't they win going away? Hey, Doug, good morning. Diana, welcome. Oh, you can't stay today. Well, we're sure going to miss you. What's going on? What kind of special events going on tonight? It's another Alexander kind of a thing, or excuse me. Let me see. I didn't see anything from Marcus. Let me double check. Talked to him yesterday. He thought he would be here unless his mare was dropping that foal or something. Nothing else went on. I don't see anything. Maybe he'll be here in a minute. I was hoping he'd be here because he probably knows a lot more about today's topic than I do. You guys don't even know what it is, I don't think, because I didn't get my thumbnail out there soon enough. Just DM'd you a picture on. Oh, okay. I'll go look. Doug, thank you. I think that's a mule deer, though. I don't know. Her ears are pretty good size, and I believe that rump is the right color. Seems like they got a spot on their backside, but their tail's got black on it. But I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've been out there looking at them. So how's Ohio today? Yeah, Diana and Mike are slacking. They're taking off. Got to do stuff at home, they're giving all of us up for home duties and activities. Well, as right now, so's my wife, Doug, because she hasn't popped in. Mark's always a little bit of a maybe. And there he is. Make pick this up. Wait a minute. And there you have it, folks. The reason Mark wasn't here was he didn't have a link. Yeah, I was muted because I was talking to Mark and I didn't know what he was going to say. Between him and me, sometimes you got to be a little bit. Okay, dokie. And suddenly it looks like I've got. Hey, Dave, wake up. I may have to go off and start over. Welcome in, Dave. Space Mountain Dave Cantrell is with us, folks. And I should be unmuted now. Let me know if I'm still muted. No sound? Still no sound? Okay, that's back. All right, thanks. You too, Dave. I hope you have a good day. Are you just passing through? Anybody got big plans for the weekend? Diana and Mike did. They popped in and popped out. I didn't even get to show Diana any puppy pictures. Good thing I didn't put any subliminal puppy pictures in my show today. I suspect Mark should pop in any moment now. He's juggling. I think he's juggling grand dogs and maybe grandbaby, and keeping an eye on that mare all at the same time. I believe he said he was juggling. That's what I kind of think he was juggling about. Oh, Dave, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be insensitive. I forgot. I wasn't even thinking. Forgot about your mom. I agree with Carol. Not to seem like a copycat. Oh, Dave, I'm sorry to hear that. That's a tough decision and a hard thing to be waiting on. Okay, Dave, you take care. We'll be thinking about you, and stay strong, brother. Yes, we are. Thanks for stopping in and kind of letting us know what's going on. That helps us. You said you're waiting on your sister. How far away does she live, Dave? Is she down in Florida too, or still in Michigan? Hey, you gonna wake up and say hi? Sorry, Tim. Started downpouring right after I sent you the pic. That's okay, Ian. She's in Michigan. Okay, well, I hope she has safe travels. That's a tough decision, Dave. But and I don't if it sounds horrible or unfeeling, it's not. It's meant from the heart. But sometimes that's the best decision for our loved one, even though we don't want to do it. Ooh, that drink was a little hot. Okay, Dave. Be safe. Oh wow, Dave. That in itself is an amazing feat. I hope they do. Hope that he can't. With you guys around, maybe he can get through that. Help him stay strong, but it's going to be hard. Brenda and I haven't been married quite that long yet, but I don't know where I'd be without her. Now, without me, she might be having a big time. But I know how hard that is. My grandfather and my grandmother were married probably just about that long, maybe longer. And I know when she passed away first, it was hard, really hard on him. And while he lasted a year or so longer, he didn't last long. Well, there he is.
Let's see.
Uncas, welcome.
Howdy.
What do you mean I didn't send you a link? I sent you a link.
No, you didn't. You just did.
Well, you're not supposed to say it that way.
Okay, you sent me one. I just didn't find it.
I just sent it to you.
So just now.
About 5 minutes ago. That's our privilege, Dave. Thank you for coming in. Dave's mother's not well, Mark. We were talking to him. They had to pull the breathing machine plug yesterday.
Oh no.
Or they're waiting to do it. I'm not sure which. I'd have to go back.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about that.
Time for Cram and Mitt in the morning.
What's Cram and Mitt?
I don't know. He's going to have to explain that to us. I don't know if that's me and you or if that's something else. Maybe that's a work term. I don't know.
Sounds like a British comedy show or something.
Kind of does, doesn't it?
Welcome to Cram and Mitt.
So, I don't know what the name of the show is. It's Mom's Boys or something Boys. I can't remember. And there's a woman who I believe is in drag, and they're funnier than crap, but they're British. And I saw a clip come up on my screen yesterday where she was hanging from a Christmas tree. Apparently,
that makes.
And her husband.
Backwards.
We're backwards?
Yeah, it's our names backwards, duh.
Oh, duh. Okay. Sorry, Ian.
We're just slow on the uptake this morning.
Yeah, we're not sharp as flint in the box this morning.
Did you just say flint in a box?
I did. I said we're not the sharpest flint in the box.
Well, I got the. I've been cleaning up the table or here where I kind of do all my stuff, and I've just put a bunch of flint in a box.
Kidneys, man, kidneys. Well, if you've got a round piece of rock in there, that might be flint. That might be
my wife's scrambling around. We got people coming this afternoon, and I'm cooking sourdough fried chicken, and it's gonna be.
What do you mean sourdough? What do you mean sourdough fried chicken? You gonna dip it in the sourdough batter, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, soak it in there instead of buttermilk or something like that.
Oh my! I remember
use the sourdough instead, and put it in the fridge put in the ice box for about an hour, and then take it out and leave her in there again for another.
Is that a Ken Rollins thing?
That is a Kent Rollins thing.
Kent, yeah. I figured it might be.
My I don't know what you call that, guru of cooking.
Yeah, I've gotta try more of his stuff. I saw something new the other day, and I don't know if he's probably done this, but it was a new show to me, and it just popped up on my screen, I guess, or list. I guess I've been looking at cooking, but he wants to know what's an ice
box.
That's something they have out west still. You have to cut the ice in the winter and then they put it in the ice box.
But that's what we all called refrigerators forever.
Well, true.
At least if you was rural people, that's what you call a refrigerator. Go get in the ice box. And
Ian doesn't like fried chicken, but the sourdough is intriguing. What do you don't like about fried chicken, Ian?
that's just not even right.
I know.
That might be totally un-American.
Well, he might be vegetarian. We've never asked that. And if he is, the secret can remain in here. But I mean, I know we accept Carol in, and Carol is a vegetarian. So I don't know. There was another gal on here we used to meet. She used to have a show on Thursday nights.
But chickens eat plants, and they turn into chickens, so they're plants too. Cows are too.
I was getting ready to say on that reasoning, so's a cow. Anyway, she was a pescatarian because she ate fish. She didn't eat red meat, but she ate fish. I don't know about chicken. He don't like bones and meat. Nobody like other meats don't eat chicken. Now my son-in-law don't like chicken. He'll eat it, but he doesn't like chicken that doesn't have bones because he said that's what gives it flavor. Well, he prefers it with bones. Let's put it that way.
And I don't like the breast meat, but I love the rest of the chicken.
Well, and I love breast meat, white meat. Yes, I mean Lynn, Carol. You used to come into her show, didn't you? I think you were there when I dressed up like a pink-headed judge and presented, or a barrister, and presented my case.
About spiders?
Yeah, my spider show.
Well, despite the fact that it's bothering you, I'm going to make chicken with bones in it.
So the chicken is in the ice box soaking, or will be?
No, it's not time yet, but it will be.
Okay. So who's coming over today? I thought
friends are coming in. The gal that watches all of our grandchildren and her husband and family are coming over. My wife's best buddy, she's coming over, and
so they're not leaving kids with you, are they? Checking them out.
We don't have children today.
Oh, you hadn't got. That's right. I thought
tomorrow. However, we'll have several.
That's right. I thought you already had Boone. You don't.
No, Boone went to Cheyenne.
Do you still have Boone's puppy?
He's hanging out in Cheyenne. I got Boone's puppy, both his dogs. So,
you might be able to show it later. Maybe if he comes.
Well, I just locked them outside because they were making so much racket. I couldn't hear myself think. But
Carol said she's talking about Lynn again. She said she's the Michigander too, and oh my God, I'd forgotten about the judge episode. Well, I brought back a memory. I surprised them. You've seen it though, haven't you? And Brenda made me a black cloak.
I loved it. I thought it was cool.
And we came up with something that kind of looked like pink ears, or like a pink wig that the Brits wear.
It looked like one of them little flat wigs them Brits wear when they're doing their judging stuff.
Yep.
And we still don't have a foal. It's starting to drive me crazy.
Yeah. You wake up and check her every 2 hours.
Every couple hours going out and checking. I put the mule in with her last night so she'd have some company because she's worried about not having company. So
yeah, I get that. She's not or herd.
If I had a goat, I'd do that, but then I'd have to probably kill it and eat it because it's a goat.
Well, it would keep your yard at it.
It's eating all my shrubs. So
well, that would be that's true. That would be a problem. And your tin cans, and you can't keep dynamite around the house if you got goats.
we had
Morning, John.
good morning, John. We had the goats before we bought this place. The people before us had goats, and they let them run in the house and did all kind of nasty. But they killed all the shrubs in the yard.
I bet.
And so they're no longer with us around here anywhere. And I thought our shrubs were good till this winter, and the moose came in and took care of that for us. So
Yeah.
now we're starting over again. So
Good morning, Brenda. Goats and Dynamite. That sounds like a Looney Tunes episode. It probably was, Ian, but it was also Andy Griffith episode.
It was an Andy Griffith episode.
I can't remember the old guy's name, but he always walked around with his goat. And the goat got into the storage shed for the highway company and ate a whole box of dynamite. And they were locking the goat up in the cell because they didn't want him to get hit by a car or fall down.
Exploded somewhere.
They thought he was going to explode everywhere. In fact, he may have. I can't remember what happened in the end.
No, I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either, but something blew up because they thought it was him. Oh, me. Goats eating dynamite. So I grew up thinking goats like dynamite. And Andy Griffith was live
action Looney Tunes, yep.
That's true. That's true. And
especially if you were like Keeper of the Flame or something like that.
Of the secret club.
They just don't make TV like that anymore.
No, they don't. Doug says I'm still not allowed to get goats. So did you want to get some, or do we talk about that? We talked about that with somebody. You could get a whole herd of them and you could rent them out to eat kudzu in the summer.
I think we talked about that last week.
Maybe we did. Yeah, I know we've had sometime.
My son-in-law would love to have some for pack animals. They use them to like tote your stuff when you're hiking, you know, or hunting or whatever. And I told him he could get all the pack goats he wanted, as long as he kept them somewhere other than my place. He wanted to put them out here.
Did he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'd work.
I got like pens and stuff, and he's like, yeah, we could just keep them out there. And I'm like, the heck we can.
What's his wee business, white man?
You got a mouse in your pocket, boy?
Can call him Totes McGoat. John says he thinks the guy that had the goat, his name was Sid or Cy. It might have been Cy. I bet we can find out.
John actually remembers the guy.
Yeah, well, I can remember his face, but I can't remember his name. But Cy does sound familiar.
Probably was.
I bet we could look up the goat dynamite eating goat episode and find out. I'd pull it up, but I'd probably get shut down.
Oh my.
Merciful heavens. Oh. It made me think of something else. Oh, you were talking about eating the shrubberies.
They're good at that. And they stand up on their hind legs.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Eat it as high as they can reach it. Just, well, kind of like a white-tailed deer.
He said the goat enjoyed the meal. He did that, Dave. I know what I was going to say. Why would he want goats instead of horses, mules, or llamas? Or
you know, he's weird about horses. He's borrowed my horse trailer and rented horses before to take his dad, who's a Vietnam vet, take him back in the backcountry, and he, you know, that way he could ride.
This ain't Sammy then.
But no, not son-in-law.
Son-in-law, okay.
And he's just not a horse guy. And there's people that just aren't horse guys. They're infantry, you know. They're not.
Carol said the guy's name was Cy Hudgens, and the goat's name was Jimmy. Thank you, Carol.
Cy Hudgens and Jimmy.
I knew I could trust somebody. And John, good on you for remembering.
My goodness.
His name. You had him right. Oh, man. I can remember most of the show, but I can't remember their names. Anyway, you made that point to me the other night about goats carrying diseases in the mountains that can harm the mountain goats or
sheep, bighorn sheep.
And I thought, wow. And I was thinking, well, Sammy wouldn't do that. Speaking of that, did he have any big news last night? Or
well, they're just at the banquet today.
Oh, so that's today. Okay.
Yeah, I think they had some kind of a mixer kind of a deal last night, but the award stuff is supposed to occur today, I believe.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
anyway, I suspect it sounded like, it just sounded like he was going to get appointed to their board, and from then on, I'll have to deal with him. He'll be Mr. Hoity-toity on me.
Oh yeah, you might have to slap him back into reality.
Hanging out with the rich sheep people. So
yeah, which will make him really hard to get along with.
Which, folks don't know what the heck we're talking about, probably. But
no, we do.
If you're a bighorn sheep person,
yeah,
bighorn sheep people tend to be rich people.
I guess that makes sense. Since they're probably the most expensive thing you could hunt on this continent, probably Canada too. I don't know that for sure, but
yeah, Canada too.
All my flags are really crooked today. I don't know how that happened. Brenda set them up for me. No offense, honey. Just looks like that side's going way off in the distance, and it ain't on the TV. I don't know what we did wrong there.
It looks like it's folded up.
Well, the one on the end is a little bit, because it's not fully extended. I have a bar that's about 10 feet long, and if you don't pull it,
the Ukraine flag.
That's the Ukrainian flag right there. And that's
now you got to tell me what the deal is with the Ukraine thing. Your people aren't from there.
No, you
just feel solidarity because they're being bullied by Russians.
I do. I just think that we need to support them because of what they are. I just do, and when that started, I just found the flag for them and put it up there, and I still got it on my slide, and I just feel like that's one we can't let go.
Sounds like they're working the Russians over on their home soil now.
Well, I honestly have to say it's about time. It probably won't.
Maybe we are assisting.
Maybe we probably should be. I just feel like if Putin gets away with that, he'll try it again, and
it'll be what it is. It'll be another Eastern European thing.
Exactly. I think he's wanting to recreate the Iron Curtain, if you will.
Right.
Wait a minute. Ian says, "Oh no, Tim, take the hit yourself." I don't know what do you mean? What did I do? What did I say? Oh, Ian, I'm not.
The last conversation, I had to make some bacon.
Ian, you might have to explain that to me. Like I said, I'm the round rock in Mark's box of flint today. I'm probably the striking tool, not the flint. I've been watching. I'll start here just in a second, but I was just going to tell you, I've been watching Clay. What's his name? Make a self bow out of a piece of snaky wood, and
Clay Hayes.
Yeah, Clay Hayes. What did I say?
Clay.
Clay. Okay, well I had that part right anyway.
Yeah,
He
that
was.
was. You
Oh,
weren't
the flag.
inaccurate.
Don't mention Brenda put them up. Oh, I'm sorry, Ian. You're right. I shouldn't have said that. You're absolutely correct. I got that in crooked somehow. Brandon didn't. He didn't have nothing to do with it. Oh, John, I loved Ernest T. Bass. I used to be able to
I
quote
could
you
sing a whole song if you want me to.
Mark's the
About,
only other
about,
person that knows it.
about old Ed McGuire jumped in the fire.
Jumped in the fire too hot. Jumped in the pan.
Pot.
Pan too hot.
No, pot.
No.
Fire too hot, jumped in the pot. Pot too black, jump in the crack. Crack too high, jump in the sky. Sky too blue, jump in the canoe. Canoe too shallow, jump in the tallow. Tallow too soft, jumped in the loft. Loft too rotten, jumped in the cotton. Cotton so white, I stayed all night.
You may be the only other person that knows that whole song.
And I actually learned that song in grade school.
Did you?
Yeah, in music, back when we used to have music.
I did not know that. They sung that Ernest T. sung that too.
You gotta turn that. You gotta have your gas can, and you tune it by like tightening or loosening the lid.
He was
serenading. Oh my gosh.
He wanted to serenade her.
What a wasted childhood.
Do what?
I said, what a wasted childhood.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Think how many times you and I have laughed over that, just me and you. And I can't tell you how many times that song has come up at appropriate moments, like over a campfire. Or...
Yeah. You gotta tap on your gas can and woo.
He did that 2 or 3 times before he got it right.
He like thump, thump, thump. They don't make TV like that anymore.
No, they don't. They sure don't. That was so good. I guess people think that's just too corny today, but that was great TV. I don't know what happened to people. I really don't. All right, guys, I'm going to pull this up because I know that Marcus might have to get going, or we might.
I was going to say something, and I have no idea what it was now.
Well, if it comes back
I don't
around,
even remember the subject.
It didn't have anything to do with Ernest T. Bass?
No.
About
bring a gas can next week. We need the full effect.
I bet he's got one he could bring in.
I bet my wife loves antiques. Yardaments, we call them. We pick them up out in the desert, find them out there, rusty.
Oh, okay.
You know, kind of Mike and what's his bucket, kind of, American picker style. You don't want to repaint it or anything.
Oh yeah, Mike and
Frank, and so we probably have a gas can or two sitting around out there. Actually,
it's a funny thing, that phenomenon. People started liking antiques, looking like they're antiques, and they used to like them all fixed up like they were brand new.
Yeah.
Mark,
white butt is white tail.
He had a deer in front of him a while ago, and I asked him if it was a white tail or a muley, and doesn't the muley have a big white round butt, but it's got a black tail?
It's got a black tip tail. It's got a little ropey tail that's just like 6 inches long or whatever. That's black tipped, and it's got a white, cream colored hindquarters.
Yeah, that's
from
what I
the
was saying.
backside.
And that's why I think it was a
Which kind of when they're doing their like Pepe Le Pew run starting off, that kind of flares out and you can see them better, and their kind can follow them. And then
yeah.
white tails have that big old giant white tail that's
When the tail
12
comes out,
inches
it's
long
wide
probably and stands straight up and it's
and it's
really white.
fluffy looking, and I mean,
Muley it was then.
yeah, he
Yep.
had one. He had one in front of the car this morning. He sent me a picture. I could have sent it to you. I didn't think of that. Don't never know if it's going to go through. I just hang on, man. I just had a note from somebody.
I've had quite the week of wildlife ID. I've had people sending me stuff all week, like, what's this and what's that? And I'm like, well, I'm retired, dang it.
Yeah, but that don't mean anything.
Don't mean nothing.
As long as they're not asking you questions like, how should we regulate this season this year? And would you come out and work the
Yeah, check
information
station.
booth or something? Then that's
Yeah, they've asked me to work check stations.
oh, I don't doubt that.
And
Not
I
one
still
bit.
get to go do sage grouse flex, so
Oh, that's right. You are counting those or monitoring whatever you do. All right, guys, I'm going to pull this up here and hopefully look at that. I'm getting so good at that. That was a first try.
boy, that just like seamless. That's what I'm talking about.
Now watch me mess up. Right next to his parking spot, which is right next to the High Line Canal down here. The High Line Canal. I'm sure that means something, probably.
Notice how Ian has a parking spot.
I didn't notice that. I started to mention that, and I didn't yet because I was just reading a book and somebody was
You
talking
never
about
had a parking spot.
No, I never had one either.
I had places where I preferred to park, but if they were occupied, that was too bad.
Yeah, I was just reading one of the Navajo books, and he was talking about the chief usually parked under the tree, and everybody tried to get there first because that was the only shade. And when you live in the desert, that's pretty important.
Indeed.
Oh. All right, guys, we're going to talk a little bit today about
Stone houses.
Going back in time and talking about, we're going to talk about Mesa Verde, probably some or so, look at pictures, but we're going to talk generally about the culture that was in the Southwest.
Actually, I don't know nothing about them at all.
Well, I know a little bit. We know enough to talk. Yep, I parked the post away from the building so I can walk in the morning. Not a car within 100 yards. Says so nobody will bump your door. That means he's got a really nice car, guys. You don't want nobody bumping it with their doors. I know people that do that too. But that's okay. We'll believe it when you say it's just because you want to walk. And I just thought this doorway was just a prime example of how their stonework looks. And I also thought it was really neat that you could see through about 4 doors.
Who's stonework?
You
need to introduce these folks if we're going to talk about them.
Well, I was going to. I can't say this right. Puebloan Americans that lived in God, I hate to say pre-AD, BC.
The Anasazis.
Yeah, the Anasazis and whoever descendants of those folks, and the Hopi, the Navajo, I don't know if the Utes ever lived in the dwellings or not. No. But anyway, I just think they're now this
no
is
Navajos either.
Huh?
No Navajos either. They were.
Oh, that's true. Well, that is true.
People. They're the ones that. They're the one. Well, that comes in later in the story, but
it's in there. A lot of it's within the Navajo Nation today. I guess
Correct.
that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah. Definitely in that part of the world.
So that's kind of what we were going to talk about. And this is Mesa Verde here, looking at it, looking south at it. And from this side, it doesn't look like much, but when you get on the other side, that's where this canyon is and these dwellings in the cliffs in that area. And this is just a couple of not really good grainy pictures of that, but I think this one, I've got a better picture in a minute. This is called the Cliff Palace. That's our name for it, or park ranger's name. I'm sure somebody named it when they discovered it. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about them today. I just thought that'd be a good topic. I want to get over to the. I was going to talk about others, and I just realized there's so much here. Of course, by trying to do too much, then I ran out of time this morning and was late getting ready. So, and here's a general idea of where they're at. This is on this map on the right. You see Utah, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. This is the Four Corners area of the Southwest where these four states come in. I got to go out there and see that someday because there's a big old brass plaque in the ground right there. And these are some. And these are some of the bigger sites that they've worked in, or just archaeologists have named and found a lot of stuff. You got Canyon de Chelly, or either we say it that way or the Navajo do. Actually, the Navajo have different names for all these places, but then Chaco Canyon over here to the east has had they found a lot of things in that area. And then up here at the top, of course, in Ian's home state of Colorado, they have is Mesa Verde. Ian says those doorways are cool. Nope, driving 8 away. Okay, he's driving an old Honda Accord, but well, you still might not want anybody to bump the doors. And the Four Corners looks cool, but he's never been. Have you ever been to the Four Corners, Mark? You lived in 2 of them states at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and Louis L'Amour bought like a big old piece of ground right there on the corners, and it was trying to build an old West town. I think he was calling it Shalico or something.
Oh, really?
And then he passed away. It never got built that I'm aware of. But
That's interesting.
I've been to Canyon de Chelly and Chaco, but I've never been to the actual site at Mesa Verde.
I told Brenda I'd like to get out there. We're going to have to take a trip out there.
I have a lion story that happened not too far from Canyon de Chelly.
Go for it.
No, we won't. An old Navajo gentleman said he had a lion eating his goats, and we went out there to take care of it, and it was a lion, not a cougar. It was an African lion that somebody had dumped out, and so anyway.
Sounds like a shapeshifter story. I'm surprised they didn't. They weren't thinking it was a witch with the Navajo belief.
No, he wasn't talking about it being a Navajo wolf at all. He just told us, well, I got a lion eating my goats.
and he did.
And we went out there to take care of it, and he sure enough did. Just not the one we were expecting.
Which is all the more reason why people should
not own wildlife.
Yes.
Especially big, dangerous wildlife.
The map on the left is a little bit more detailed picture of Mesa Verde site. You can tell by the outline. It's not big enough to read. I do that. I'm used to some things I can pull up on my computer, and when I scroll, they get bigger. So I do that, and then I end up in a whole nother, set of screens. So I think the next one is more or less the same thing. Some information about Chaco, or map about Chaco, and I believe all these red dots are, well, it says great houses, so that means they're quick cliff dwellings, and there's some prehistoric roads. That's another thing I didn't know that. Mark might have seen these. I haven't, but there's like the natives in that region at that time actually had built what we would consider these great big wide roads. Are you familiar with that, Mark?
Where at? At
Out
Chaco?
like around Chaco, they've got these areas where they're, what, like I said, what we would call roads. They're kind of big and wide and fairly smooth, and they're cleared out, and they were created. They've been there since the native peoples created Chaco, or the Chaco culture. And we don't. When my information is that they don't really know for sure why they built them, but they're there. And I mean, to me, it's a little bit like those figures down in Chile or something, but or those big long strips that we don't know what they really built them for. I didn't know these were out there.
Yeah, they're all around that Chaco site. I didn't know they extended quite that far, but
You ever hear any reasoning for them being there?
uh-uh.
I think I've done something bad to my arm. Anyway, and over here's another map that shows kind of some of the origins, some of the names of, I guess, the tribes or the area at least, and they show different dwellings and different map, and I didn't get this map didn't have much detail with what everything represented, so I didn't get.
So the ancestral Pueblo would have been what they called the Anasazi people,
Right.
and the Mugyons to the south.
But that's not anywhere near the Muggion. That how you say it, the plateau up near the.
Yeah, it's right there. So the northwest part of that polygon would be the Mugyon Rim.
Yeah, Muggion Rim.
And then the Hohokam were the people that lived around Phoenix that built they had giant canals they built all through that valley to irrigate.
Wow.
Which white folks took advantage of when they moved settled that part of the world, and just the system of canals were already there when they
that's
started,
interesting. I didn't know that.
Farming that Phoenix Valley country.
So the white people weren't the first ones to go in there and start irrigating, huh?
No, the Hohokam.
And talked to Navajo ladies about shapeshifters or Navajo wolves. I'm actually surprised they talked to you about it, Ian, because at least the older Navajo, if it's still true, don't really like to talk about them.
They don't talk about it
because they don't, at least not out loud, because they believe that when you talk about something like that, it'll happen. And they don't talk about the dead. They usually won't mention the name of a dead family member once they pass away, because they don't want to invoke the chindi, or the personal ghost of that person, and which they believe could come back then and haunt them or cause trouble. So they don't even now the younger ones are not that strict, but especially the older folk, they don't like to talk about Navajo wolves, and because that's basically the same thing as a witch to them. It's their version of a witch, and usually the way the witch is created more or less is when somebody turns to the dark side or the evil way of life, then they give up their soul or their anything good in them and turn into these witches or shapeshifter. Which can be a shapeshifter, or they talk a lot about seeing people that stand upright. Werewolves in many ways, it's the same difference. But anyway, it's pretty interesting. That's one thing I've gotten out of Hillerman's books, and I know Hillerman's books are novels, and they're not, they're fiction, but he researched all the religion and culture a great deal and lived with the Navajo for many years. So he's kind of got that down. I just saw something today, in fact, while I was doing this, where Navajo was talking about how well he did depict, the native culture in his books. So I think they kind of appreciated him for that. And I'm just eat up with it now. I just love the whole thing. Hence my name today, Janae Bear. Anyway, it was a weird circumstance, but she didn't say much. She was also a Christian, so she did. Okay. She took the Jesus road, so she didn't believe, and that makes a difference too. If they're not fully invoked into that way of life, then that explains some of that. Even then, they don't like to talk about it.
You have been reading his book, The Jesus Road.
Buddy, I'm in the third one of his daughters.
He talks about that all. They took the Jesus Road.
Well, that's how they refer to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the third daughter's book, so if you ever wondered, they're not bad. I think he was a little different style, but we'll talk about that sometime. But they're good. They're just, I'd say they're just as good as his. And these are just some of the things that they have found. Now, obviously, this drawing isn't original, and I didn't see a date on when it was. This is actually an early drawing for the
well, that's from
the naked. What?
Well, the glyptodonts were gone at the end of the Pleistocene. That's like first people.
Well, yeah, but I was going to say this is like a drawing for the show Naked and Afraid, and but it's just.
I don't remember if we even had. I don't remember if there were glyptodonts in North America or not, but
Yeah, I don't know either. This drawing was done a long time ago when they started discovering these things, and I can't remember who it was credited to, but I don't know if it gave a date. The other one, however, these bone awls were found at the Pueblo sites, and those are authentic, left over from 1,000 years ago or thereabouts, which I think is pretty cool that they, found them. But that's the kind of thing they find in these kind of sites a lot. Flint chips and bone awls and, things like that. I've never found an awl, but I've, of course, picked up a lot of some arrowheads and a lot of chips. But I don't know. It's probably you, but somebody I know's got a really nice, long, maybe a flint awl that looks kind of like that. At least it seems like somebody does. Hey, Shelley, good morning. Tim, what are the books called? Oh, they're referred to often as the Lee Porn She mystery series, but they have different names. I can send them to you. I've got a couple of books that list them actually in order and tell you what, kind of give you an idea of what they're about. Carol, and I'll send you that later. But the Tony Hillerman wrote them up until he passed away in I think he made it. He lived into the early aughts. He might have been late 90s. Anyway, his daughter always worked with him. So when he passed away, she started to write the books and continue them. And I've just found them fascinating, probably because of my interest in that sort of thing anyway. And the fact that he went to such lengths to make sure he got the details right. He wasn't just pulling it out of his behind. He wasn't just, doing it like me looking it up. He was out there and lived, like I said, he lived with the people. And now I don't guess his daughter did, but my guess is she spent a lot of time out there with him. So later in life, I mean. But anyway, they're really good books. I've read every one of them now. Well, like I said, I'm on his daughter's book now. He's continuing the series, but he wrote 12 or 14 books.
They're a great read, Carol.
They really are.
They're not a good read. They're a great read.
Yeah, Carolyn, there's an order to them, and I can send you that. I've got a book that lists that if you want to read them in order. This gentleman was from the Smithsonian Institute. He was an early director or manager or whatever they called them back then at the Smithsonian. He was out on one of the sites. That kind of looks like the Palace site from that angle, but I'm not sure. It didn't say. And I don't know who this guy was. They just showed it along with these, but he's up on the top of a pinnacle there overlooking the canyon or probably some ruins over to our right. And I'm thinking he probably was the guy they picked up local for help because he was.
I bet he said something like, "Hold my beer."
Oh, my beer and watch
before he went up there.
Back when this was taken, it wasn't an easy thing to take a photograph. So he might have had to get up there and stand and then try to be really still for, a long time.
Right.
To get the photo. Yeah. Hold my beer and watch this. And of course, we've also got baskets. The natives, this is one of the things they find in places like pueblos where they either weren't exposed to all the elements and they've preserved them, or they have persisted and maintained and they lived. And they've actually done enough of this now. And I read this in a book too, and then I followed up on it a little bit, but they actually they found enough pottery and baskets in certain areas where they can kind of attribute them to a basket maker or a potter because of the style. Everybody that does something's got a little different angle, and pretty much Mark could probably attest to that. I think even arrowheads, they've done that to a degree. Kind of like the first guy to do a Clovis point. I believe it was Clovis or the other one, and where he figured out how to break that chip out of the middle and make that ridge or trough through there, or whatever they call it.
The flute.
Yeah. But that was, they were able
not
to
a flute, not one of them kind of flutes.
No, not that kind of flute. More like a ditch through the middle of the arrowhead.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave's still in here with us listening. Good, Dave.
Well, what do you mean by you mean they've found baskets or pottery that were made by an individual that they've been able to follow that person around, or?
Yeah, to some degree. Because every person they might have had a certain style, how they ended the pot or the basket or how they started it, or
right.
They can look at it and kind of tell, not in all of them, but some of them, enough to see, this person was here, and then they might move to Chaco.
That gal probably lived here, and then she moved over here.
Maybe she married somebody and moved to Chaco from Canyon to Shea or something. Or depending on the culture, she might have been vice versa. Her husband could have come to her, but that's kind of how they figure which ones are which. Now, they can't obviously name that person, couldn't pick her up out of a lineup, but they feel like they recognize the same patterns from different people. It's kind of like, you drawing something or you making a saddle. And, somewhere down the road, somebody can probably look at that and say, I bet that Zorn's guy made that saddle. Just because of some quality or something you did a certain way that nobody else did. Right. It's just kind of like that. And sometimes it was the pattern because, patterns came and went kind of like fashion or something today. But, this was an earlier basket from AD 1 to 700. That's 1,000 years old basically, and then this one was newer. I thought I put the dates on that one. I think this was more 700 to 1200 or something. And these patterns had started evolving. So they'd learned how to do this. And over time, that's the kind of stuff with the Navajo. I don't know about these others, but they were with, they've always been sheep. They've always had sheep or goats or that sort of thing, or did for a long time. And they became weavers of rugs and blankets and things. So, I'm sure they can tell that something like this from them too. Hey, Francisco, Native American artistry is so cool. I love those things. Yeah, they really are. And I learned a lot more about how we're preserving that Native American culture from, things in the valley where I live, because they found them along the rivers and things. And, back in the day when they first started finding a lot of that stuff, it just, some people didn't care and just scattered it to the winds. And then I guess archaeologists from big schools came along, and all the major universities, just about, if they have an archaeology department, have a large inventory, or have had a large inventory of, Native American artifacts that they found, including bones and, skeletons. And there's a major program going on now to what's the word? To return those bones back to their ancestral grounds. And I know when I worked for TVA, we did that several times, did reinterments. I had one on some property I was involved in. I didn't do a lot of the, on the ground work, but I had to do some paperwork on it. And then along the Tennessee River, there were several places where they had done that, trying to return. Most of the universities, at least in the Southeast, I believe, had signed some kind of an agreement with the nations in the South that live in this part of the country. And I can't remember, they had a name for that coalition. Now I can't think of it. Anyway, they would come together and discuss these things, and had decided, how they wanted to handle that. But all the agencies and universities down here had decided to try to return those folks back to their native lands, which think about it, if it had been a European graveyard and it got raided and all the skeletons taken over to the university, they would have been upset. So anyway, they're still, that's something that's ongoing, and they're working on it. I don't know what kind of schedule they have. Shelley says, kind of like things we are losing now, important ways of life handed down. Yeah, exactly, Shelley. And I've talked about that recently. The fact that I feel like some of us who are of a certain age, present company included, we are on the cusp of a generation that lived through a lot of change that our kids don't have any clue about. And I say this not lightly, it's everything from party lines on your telephone to outhouses. I mean, it really is such huge changes that when you talk about these things, nobody knows what you're talking about, or they laugh and say, "Oh man, it was brutal back then, wasn't it?" I mean, but I really think that's part of what's going on, that we're losing that, including a lot of other natural or original skills that people had when they came out, especially if they were rural at all. And Mark, I think you and I know you and I've discussed that.
Yeah, it's sad.
It is sad, and I don't know what you do about that, because it seems harder today to pass that down than it used to, because I don't think a lot of people take it seriously.
Well, they don't. I mean, they just don't have the basic skills to even get to the point to do whatever.
It's like working on your own car, even.
And, yeah, I mean, how would a young person learn to be a mechanic like a real honest to God mechanic, not a technician, but a real mechanic on today's vehicles. I mean, you can't, if you don't, there's more computer crap going on than anything else in there. And it's like, how do you fix your own vehicle under the shade tree when you can't, you look in there and it's so full of junk, you don't even know what the engine is.
Exactly. And it's, they look at that and say, "Oh, I can't fix this," and they never do. And I would call that a skill, because there's still a lot of cars on the road that I could work on at one time, but there's a whole lot of them out there I don't have a clue about, including my own in the garage. I don't know
Well,
what's
it's darn sure a skill, but
yeah,
it's dying because those vehicles are dying.
right. So, but that's just one example. That's a technological kind of an example, or maybe the last of the original industrial age revolution, maybe, or something. I don't know,
But I mean, you just things like making your own ice cream. Nobody knows how to do that anymore.
they don't
I
make it.
mean, we do, but
Yeah, but
probably
people don't do that
most
anymore.
of the folks in this chat room probably do. But there's a lot of young people that what do you mean you need salt?
Yeah, I wouldn't know why. And this is some more pottery, and these pots are associated with some of the Anasazi, the Whiskers Ruin, which is in Utah, and they say Mesa Verde Pueblo. I'm not sure, but these came out of Whiskers Ruin. And this one over here, they thought this is a later bowl, and some people think this is supposed to be a serpent or a snake of some sort on the pottery. And that was something they did do from time to time, use snakes. And sometimes the snake was just a zigzag line. And but this one was kind of unique, and it's glazed. It's considered glazeware, not just a pot. But you can see those pots have a texture to them. And, again, that's a change from how they were making them. Somebody learned how to do that and then fire the pot, and, it had a pattern. And I thought this was kind of funny, but it's true. These are an early picture and basically a mug. I don't know how old the mug is. Maybe it's not. They called it a mug, but it's got basic black and white art on it. And that was before they started learning how to use color. I thought this was kind of neat. I'm going to have to get my cheat notes out here. Let me see if I got them pulled up. My cheat sheet. Da, 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 da. Oh, I'm going to have to dig deep to find that. There it is. So I just thought I'd write this down because where is it at? I thought this was kind of fun. This drawing shows a guide that they handed out. Oh no. Hooey. All right, bear with me, folks. I gotta do something. I gotta do this and do that, and then go back to this. Okay.
Sorry, folks. I've got lots of dog issues going on, so
This is just a brochure from a part of on Mesa Verde, and I'm not sure from this angle. I think that's probably the palace they call it, but I'm not sure. Let me find the first of it. I got the directions. I was going to thought this was kind of neat. I was going to read them to you because it sounds like a one of Mark's Easter egg hunt. Well, you salvage hunt or whatever you call it, but it's actually part of a real. They hand this out to visitors. Oh, come on! Oh, here it is. This is part. They call this the balcony house. Excuse me. And this is what they call.
We can't see it, brother.
Who can't? You can't see this?
We don't see nothing but us, or at least I don't.
And you hear me talking, and it's just talking.
Yeah. Just don't see your presentation anymore.
And nothing's gonna happen. Well, here it is. How about now?
Now we can.
And you'll see this is numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what they hand out, I hope I still got it. There it is. What they hand out is a part of the brochure, or maybe these are guided. That's quite possible. So they have interpreters with you, but you have to start at number 1 and go up this ladder, which is a 32-foot ladder up to the end to get in the Pueblo. And then you've got a 12-foot tunnel that you have to crawl through.
Well, how do they get away with that?
Which part?
You have to sign a release saying,
"Oh, that's a good
32-foot ladder." That amazes me that the Park Service would be involved in anything like that.
Well, that's a really good point.
But you'd splatter if you fell off that ladder.
Yeah, you sure would. That's a really good point. I don't know if there's airbags underneath it or not, but
and it looks like it's like ladders that they would have used.
Yeah, but newer. I don't know. It's probably one of those things you have to sign a release for to do. I bet you. And even then, there was probably more to it than that. I mean, when we did anything like this, we had to have release forms. And we didn't do anything quite like this. But you got to climb the ladder. Wow. And then you cross through tunnels along here. You can kind of see right here this flat area disappears and goes under these rocks and comes back out over here at 3. And then from 3, you've got to climb up here to get on this level at 4. And at 4, you got to go over here and climb out the rest of the way at 5. And there's the ladder for 5. And you're right, these ladders are very much akin to what they used to use. I was going to say something stupid, but now I see the answer. Some of these walkways even have fences along them. And I'm surprised that this main one doesn't have a fence all the way across it. And it may have, just can't see it. Again, because they don't want anybody falling off.
Folks from plunging far, far below.
Yes, they're very dead state. It says that tour requires walking. First thing you got to do to get down here at 1 is you got to walk down 32-foot, 130-step metal staircase. Then to enter the dwelling, you got to climb up 132-foot ladder to enter, 2 small ladders, and 12 uneven stone steps within the site to exit, crawling through an 18-inch wide. I couldn't get through that. By 12-foot tunnel as you leave the site, and 3 to 5 is ascending a 60-foot open cliff face with uneven stone steps and 2 17-foot ladders to get out. Yes, I'm amazed they let them do that. I really am. I bet they have to sign away, but I thought that was cool. And it could be that this isn't, current. They may not anymore, but the cars, those are not 1955 cars or anything. They look fairly new. So, they've done this in recent history at least. I just thought that was really cool. I had to include that because I thought, wow, look at this. And now I would have loved something like that, but This is just a better view or a different angle view of the Cliff Palace, but you can see how much of this is still in existence. And these homes, this I don't know, would you call that a village? Are amazing to me. I mean, think about a city. I mean, think about how protected.
I don't know if you talked about it while I was up chasing dogs or whatever, but as I recall, these folks lived like at Chaco and places like that out in the valleys and had built these just exquisite stone homes. And then as their enemy folks built up in numbers, they moved to these cliff cities for protection. And maybe that's an outdated view of how this happened, but I think Mesa Verde's younger than Chaco.
Yeah. And now you'll see that because there's some pictures, I believe, at Chaco that are more like, ground level homes type thing.
Yeah, Chaco, they're just out in the valley, like open, just like they're not in the cliffs at all. They're just out in the open. And then they, as the kind of Apachean people moved to the southwest, they I don't want to say chased them, but these people migrated to the more defensible locations. It appears.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And this couldn't have been an
That's
easy.
been the interpretation in the past. I don't know if it's
well, I think that's what basically happened all over the North American continent as Europeans moved in on the East Coast, we started moving native tribes, Indian tribes west. And slowly but surely they ended up where oftentimes we think of them as supposed to be now. Like,
but I mean that was happening way before Europeans got here.
Right, but it's the same idea. I mean,
it was different peoples encountering each other and like, I want to take your stuff.
Yeah, you got better stuff.
You got better stuff than I've got, and I'm meaner than you are, so I'm gonna take your stuff. And you got to adapt, and I mean it's that happened over the entire planet, not just in North America.
Right.
I get a little tired of that argument. Actually, it's like, well, it was happening in Europe, and it was happening in Asia, and it was happening in Africa.
Well, sure it was. I just meant it happened here because it
but in this particular case, I think, I mean the folks that are in the know have talked about, these people being encountered by people from the north that wanted their stuff. And so they moved from these open valley cities to more defensible locations.
This couldn't have been easy. I mean, now they may have carved and made the bricks on right there, but I bet they had to carry a lot of this stuff up. They often have a source of water somewhere in that area. I'm sure that was a priority when they started building these things. And
well, like I said, I've never been to Mesa Verde. I've been to Chaco, and it's just rocks.
Well,
there's no brick. It's these little flat rocks that they
like the doorways.
I mean, they were masters at building these stone buildings with these, varying size stones. And they're beautiful. And they're still standing.
And they're still standing, yeah. And these are just more views of Cliff Palace. This one on the left is a different section. You can see it's separate from this part. And I thought this was cool. This is a bandolier. And they just refer to this as a multi-story dwelling. And they've literally carved this into the side of the rock. And I don't know, but it looks to me like they may have had some kind of a walkway built
Yeah, it
in.
looks like almost like they had logs or something
Yeah,
stuck in
stuck
those.
into the wall for up when they're, to get around, but then to get to it, no doubt they had ladders which they could probably pull up or something. But there's also if you look, there's also or was something on the ground right here. I mean, there's foundations of other houses, and I don't know. I should have read up more on this one. Maybe maybe these buildings were what extended up into these other openings. And maybe what we were thinking about is log walkways. Maybe that was how they were attached to the wall. That could be. But
It's just cool.
it's
I
cool.
just think about who was what system of government or whatever they had that, like, okay, we're as a people, we're going to go build this giant stone city. Or, if it took 15 generations to build it,
Yeah, that's a good question.
it's just like, okay, they had a really strong leader that said, let's go do this. We're
Well,
going to go drill big holes in rocks and live in the rocks.
it's probably not the same exactly, but it is similar if you think about it. Well, let's say while this was happening, um, Europe was in the midst of the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages, probably more like the Dark Ages, and but in their case, Christianity was starting, and the church was building cathedrals, or that people were building cathedrals for the church, and some of those cathedrals took 100 years to build.
Right.
And that's in a society that was probably a little bit more advanced than these guys in
I
some
don't think
ways.
so. I think these guys were way ahead.
Well, okay, maybe they were.
Personally.
So, but I mean, what I'm getting at though is it probably took longer, like you were saying. Some of these things happened over time and were probably handed up or handed down and continued. And so kind of like the church. I had often wondered about that, and I took a class on medieval studies, I think, while I was back in school because I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. And that was one of the things we talked about was how much effort these little villages sometimes ended up putting into these grand cathedrals around Europe and how long it took them to build them. I mean, and we've got more written records of that. These guys didn't really write things down, not in the same way, at least. So we know more about the European part. But yeah, you're right. These guys to me were cutting edge.
But I mean, when these guys were building these cities, there were people in Central America, South America, Southern Mexico building grand temples, and I mean, there was a lot of work going on in the Americas at that time.
Well, the Incans and the Mayans
The Incans and the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Mississippian people on the Mississippi River and building those giant platform mounds, and it's like, well, how did they get the people to do that? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Had to been. I mean, I would think it would have been a religious thing, and not just defense or whatever. But
And I didn't say it before, but good morning, Tina. She said the dogs were sleeping and didn't wake her up in time.
wish mine were sleeping.
Said Tina saying the Incans proved that advanced societies weren't necessarily stronger. They got taken over by the stronger peoples. I don't know that if that's a result of. I mean, in some ways, you could say, and this is oversimplified, I know, but you could almost say that once people got civilized to a certain point, we got we might have lost that instinct or part of that training, just like today, of being able to do certain things or create our own dwellings or protect ourselves. And, the civilizations tended to fall to lesser civilized groups, and then they ended up taking over the next one, and they became, something else, and they took up, and then they've crumbled. I know that's overly simplified, but those Mexican temples were built before the Incans, Mayans, and the Aztecs found them. Very true. I wonder what they thought back then. And this is just an example of what park rangers do most of the time, or a lot of the time anymore, or at least some of them. They're up. This is some kind of a conference, or this is a teaching lesson ceremony over here inside the dwelling, or one of the cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde. And here's a park ranger that's probably doing a guided tour and explaining to people, something that's going on here. And they do a lot of that. That's not all they do. Maybe that's not even most they do, but that is important. I think an important part of what they do. And then they've also got some canyon drawings, art, and pictographs. Down here at the bottom is a Mesa Verde pictograph. One of these is, I didn't put that in there. I believe the pictograph is on an area they refer to as either picture point or pictograph point, or pictoglyph, excuse me.
Well, and those style of pictographs and petroglyphs are common from that Four Corners country all the way up to where I live here. For the Fremont people, they called them. I don't know why Fremont, but probably because of Fremont and the canyon.
Right.
But they get up to just into southwest Wyoming, and then you don't see them above that much.
Anyway, pretty cool stuff. I'd like to get out here and see this before I die. Planning on giving it a try. And when I was talking about water, these are examples of reservoirs up in the cliff areas or on top of the mesas. And this bottom was the Sun Temple, they call it, but it's also, I believe they said this was also a water reservoir in the back. That in itself would be a reason to celebrate, I think. This is called the Square Tower House. Anybody got any idea why they say that? Why it's called that? Another interesting thing.
Yeah, because that tower's square.
Yeah, I think so. Another interesting thing, and I've had a picture of it, but I don't think I posted it. And now I should put it right here. And they don't all do this, but there's some of these ruins have the doorways or windows, whichever they are supposed to be, are kind of keyhole shaped. And like that one right here is, it's bigger at the top, smaller at the bottom, more narrow. And I don't know if they know why that is or not. I don't think I saw anything about it. I saw a picture or two of it, and one picture.
The doors?
Yeah, see how they're keyhole that one is? These don't look like it, but this one.
Yeah, they're like T-shaped.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
And they've hypothesized why that might have been they were carrying loads or whatever, but I think they've kind of decided they had some other, maybe religious purpose or something. That there's a lot of those at Chaco, and I think a fair number. There's a bunch of them at Canyon de Chelly, but I like I said, I've never been to Verde, but those T shapes, it's a real common design. There's whole videos you can see on YouTube about why those might have been.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to
Yeah, I
follow.
mean, there's guys that study, or guys and gals that study those and why they exist the way they existed. And
Oh, okay.
it's pretty common down through all the way into Mexico. And anyway,
Well, I know some of them have a lot. I knew some of them had a lot more than others, but this is one that you can see one or two there, but most of these are square. But I know there was other places where they were that T shape.
John's building cookies.
Yep, he
Yeah,
is.
you're and watch the moon the same way. I think I don't disagree, Shelley. I think that we don't understand why we did things the way we did in those days. Even Stonehenge and all that seems to be really linked to some kind of celestial
Events.
events that we found important, and we've lost that, unfortunately, I think. But
I don't think we even know why some of it was done. But
all I know is that last night was like almost a full moon, and when it gets to be, I get to be lunaticy around the full moon all the time. So I don't sleep, and maybe that means I'm a shapeshifter, skinwalker.
Skinwalker. I didn't get to the name. There's one that shows you a couple of those T doors in the side of that. And these two pictures are the same section. This is a close up, but it's also at a different time. I noticed this when I was putting these in here. Look at the rocks in front of the building. There's more rocks in this picture than there are in that picture. So,
And it's like, well, why did they have doors going? I mean, were there wooden platforms out there that they ran out onto, or was it just ladders, or, I think it's pretty cool speculating about all this.
yeah. And that bottom one, which is on the rim of the canyon, obviously, they just,
Chain myself to the radiator.
who said that?
Tina.
Oh,
Tonight's the full moon.
and
I can
Shelly
feel
said
it. I can feel it coming on.
Shelly said you got it for a couple more nights yet. But they call this the square fort or the U fort, something. They're not even sure that's what it was. But it puts me in mind of like the towers on the Great Wall or something that they might post a lookout there, who
Yeah.
maybe even lived there, but they would maybe yell down and let people know. I don't know. There's all kinds of possible
The
explanations.
Navajos are coming, or the Apaches are coming, and like,
Now, these are obviously more modern, but some of these similar dwellings have been here for a long time. That's what Mark was talking about. This is down towards Chaco. And I bounced right back up to the square tower, and I'm not sure what that top one. I didn't get these labeled, as you can see. I threw this aerial photo in here at the very last minute. Look at the rock that I guess they've crumbled off, unless this is all natural.
amazing.
A pretty good sized site. I mean, look at the doors. And
Is that at Chaco?
Maybe.
That looks like Chaco.
I think it was, but I'd have to pull
But
the.
those houses, those buildings they had out there, it's just, some of them that I've been up close to, the rock is like a half-inch thick. They're just these big flat rocks, and they built these pretty imposing structures with half-inch thick rock. Just, it's gorgeous. Amazing construction. No mortar. It's just stacked.
Yeah, right. No more. Mostly that one, the palace dwelling they show it has a face in one area that looks like they mudded over it, kind of a facade. But most of the time you don't see that, and but you're right. I mean, it's just block upon block upon block, and there's nothing else there. Which is, you're right. It's fascinating. They're good. They were so good at it that they stood. Not only did they stand and were safe, they lasted.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are thousands of years old.
Oh, yeah. They know some of them, they've dated some stuff in them. I said some of them are 1,000, but they've dated some of them to back way before that, too.
Right. Excuse me.
I just didn't put it if I didn't have it for sure. And that might be my last one. Let me see. Yep. Let me get you guys out of the never ending loop. Maybe I already did. Oh, I did. I didn't know that would do that.
He's trainable, folks. Check it out.
Thanks. Oh, I don't know why it's asking me that. I hate when these things give you, do you want to save or don't save this project? And I'm thinking, I saved it a little while ago. What did I do to make need to save it again? It always worries me that I might have accidentally deleted something. And now it's gone forever. But anyway, I probably won't show that show again. Shelley said some native cultures believe they emerged from it. Oh, yeah. The Choctaw, the Navajo believe they came up from actually 2 or 3 levels down in the earth and worked their way up over time. And then some of them had to go back down.
That. Lots of people thought, a lot of native folks thought they had emerged from underground. And you're right, Shelley. Some of these sites are very ancient.
So it's amazing when you really can put dates and times to some of that stuff, realize they've been here that long. But you got to look back on it and see, like we were talking before about civilizations that were at least as old, if not older. And, if 2,000 years ago, when some of these were, on the U.S. or on North American continent were thriving, so was Egypt. Was at some level of their civilization. They were building the Great Pyramids and things, which, we still hadn't really figured out how they were doing that. But, I mean, besides space aliens, I personally like space aliens as an idea because that makes it all really easy and we don't really have to explain it.
There ain't much work involved that way.
Yeah. Then you can make it up and nobody knows you're right or wrong.
You didn't have a bunch of slaves like moving stone blocks.
Yep. A lot easier that way.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. Okay, guys. I'm actually gonna end on time today. So anybody got it? I hate to ask this, it's not like we're experts on any of this. May not have a clue. But if you got any questions or want, or if you ever want something you see and you want an address, huh?
It's fun to speculate on it.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to speculate. And fingerprints of the gods. That was said to
in the book of Enoch.
In the book of Enoch. Huh. Well, that's one way to look at it. I don't know. Did anybody, let's see. I don't know. Were there were there cliff dwellings like this in Europe? I don't know. I mean, somebody mentioned that a while ago, but I don't know. Because I just can't think
I
of it.
think those folks tended to live in big old holes in the ground.
Could be.
If you look at like the caves at Chauvet or Lascaux or those cool places where those wonderful artworks are done. We weren't building stuff underground. You were just living in the hole.
Right. Well, that made me think of something.
With like big bears.
I was trying to. Oh, and then you go to like Southeast Asia, Thailand, and what's the where the Khmer Rouge were, Laos or whatever it's called today.
Cambodia.
Yeah, and Miramar, or what did we call it? Anyway, that part of the
Oh,
world.
Myanmar, not Miramar.
Mi-
Not the Air Force, but
yeah, correct.
not the Top Gun school.
I was thinking, yeah, I was thinking right stuff, but you know what I meant. But in
Yeah,
that part of the world, they built those civilizations built some giant, amazing
cathedral.
cities that were just, I mean, I would have to think by architectural standards, were far out exceeding these, at least in the sense that they were more complicated designs, more complex. Um, and I was just in fact, I pulled up a lot of stuff on those. And when you look at them and think about, they're about as old as some of these cliff dwellings are. And uh, it just blew me away because that all that was going on either at the same time or before.
Yeah,
These were happening. It's just, and those were really complex. Some of those were really complex,
and lots of carvings and beautiful, beautiful world.
and I didn't say goodbye yet. I said I'm going to try to. My
Mo,
wife says every night that I yell when I say I'm going to come up in just a minute, and she says she never does anything for about 30 minutes after that because she knows that's the first goodbye, and she knows it'll take me longer after that. Oh, Shelly, I'm glad you did too. We missed you being here, so always, you're always a pleasure and knowledgeable on most of the subjects, probably better than we are, and on some of them at least. Always welcome, and a pleasure to have in. So I'm glad you made it too. Um, and that made me lose track of what I was going to say.
I think it was fairly well, wasn't it?
Well, I'm getting ready to. Yes, that's what I was saying. I was running that direction because you may have something to do. And Chuck's the same way. He's a multiple good buyer. Well, that's the country folk in us. You can't ever just go out the door and say goodbye. You got to stop 3 times going to the car because somebody remembered something about so and so's wedding, or so and so's got a party happening, or there's
Bless her heart.
bless her heart. Yeah, there's always something. You can't just walk out the door and go to the car and leave. That's rude. Or maybe it's an Appalachian thing. I don't know, but anyway, that's what we're doing here. Mark, I hope you guys have a baby soon.
Me too.
I may not. Well, hopefully I'll talk to you before you go out of town, but I'm sure I will. But
Yeah, oh yeah.
so
I'm not leaving yet.
Posted. I would recommend that everybody update their their baby dates if they want to between now and next week, because
Because she's late.
she's late at this point. Yeah, she should be falling any day now.
I've been saying that for a week and a half.
Carol says they have multiple goodbyes in the Midwest too. Well, see, it went west, and as we migrated west, we carried some things with us. Anyway, I'm going to do it this time, and we're going to say goodbye because I'm going to sign off early, and I'm going to go rest my behind. And it actually, I've been sitting there squirming for 2 hours, and right now it's starting to ease up.
Thanks for listening to us, folks.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, if like Shelly, if you just happen to make it, Dave, we'll be thinking about you, buddy, and your mom. So take care. And I'll talk with some of you between now and then. But if I don't talk to you, I'll see y'all later in the week somewhere around the chat room, I'm sure. So bye bye. I looked up how to say goodbye, and I'll go nay is how you say it in Navajo.